So, do you remember what your contact with the floor was this morning?
Oh, you want a recording of this?
I'm recording it on my phone, but... do you remember? Now, what's your contact right now? Is it closer to the beginning of this morning's lesson? Or is it more like the end of this morning's lesson? Or is it just something altogether different? Where are the points of contact most interesting to you right now? Do you remember the heels? Are they more equal or less equal than they were this morning? Are they more on their side, less on their side? More on the behind part, more on the underneath part? Do the legs feel more or less equal? Do they feel heavier, longer, lighter, shorter, warmer, colder? And the pelvis, does it lie more or less dead center? Can you feel more precisely, that one hip joint's just a tiny bit closer to the floor than the other? May not be much of a difference. Is there any difference at all? And how is that space between the lower back and the floor? And all the part of your back that's touching. It means the spine in the middle, the ribs on the left, the ribs on the right, the left shoulder blade, the right shoulder blade. How much detail is there? And how much is it just kind of an amorphous blob? And is one arm longer than the other? Is one hand turned differently? Some of your hands are palms up. Some people lie with their palms down. Some people lie with their palms toward their body. Thank God nobody lies with their palms away from the body, because then you'd need a hospital, not a Feldenkrais lesson. Now, if you bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor, notice what happens to the space between the lower back and the floor. Did the lower back get closer to the floor or farther away? Probably it got closer. Now, if you pushed very gently on your feet so that the pelvis rocks a little bit, that would get the lower back even closer to the floor. So your knees are bent, your feet are standing on the ground, and you gently push, very, very gently, like the tiniest push on your feet, to rock the pelvis the tiniest amount towards your head. And the lower back gets a little closer to the floor. And then you pull on your feet, but a tiny, tiny bit. So the pelvis rocks the other way, it rocks towards your feet. And the lower back gets a little bit further away from the floor. So how tiny can you do that? Could you do it so tiny that I don't see anything? I don't see the pelvis rocking at all, but you feel inside. The lower back got a little closer to the floor and a little farther away from the floor. So if we imagined that your pelvis is lying on a clock face, and 12 o'clock is near your head, and 6 o'clock is near your feet, then you don't lift the pelvis in the air, you leave it lying heavy on the floor, but it rocks a little bit towards 6 o'clock to bring the lower back farther away from the floor. It rocks a little bit towards 12 o'clock to bring the lower back closer to the floor. Now, can you do it in such a way that you feel the moment in time when each successive vertebra touches the floor or stops touching the floor. So you see how small that would be. Most of us, we start rocking and like all of a sudden all of the lower back is on the floor, or all of a sudden all of the lower back is not on the floor. But you do it by such small degrees that each single vertebra comes to the floor in turn and not all of them at once. Now, if the feet are shoulder width apart, that works the best. Because if your feet are too close together, then your hip muscles are working to stop the knees from falling outwards. So just let your knees go. And do you feel they want to fall outwards? Then put your feet wider apart. And now let them go again and see. Do they still want to fall outwards? And put your feet even further apart. Fine. And then finally, if your feet are really wide apart, then of course the knees are going to fall inwards. So that's no good either. But there's some place for your feet on the floor, probably about 40 centimeters apart from each other, but you find a place where the knees just seem to like balance in midair, like without, and then the thighs can let go. And this distance of the feet from the left, from the right, that it's not the distance of your feet from your body, it's the distance of one foot from the other foot. This place where the knees neither fall in nor out, it's very different for some people. Some people, they've got a fairly big thighs and that it might be quite far apart. Other people, they're skinnier and it might be not so far apart. And then try again when you found this really nice place where your knees are neutral, and you'll see the pelvis rocks more easily. And it rocks a little bit 6 o'clock and a little bit 12 o'clock with less effort and more clarity about that lower back. Now, would you, instead of rocking the pelvis towards the head or towards the foot, rock the pelvis towards the left? So that's like 3 o'clock, and come back to the middle. And, now the lower back doesn't get closer to the floor, it doesn't get further away from the floor, but it rotates a little bit. So could you actually feel which two vertebrae in your back are rotating? It's very peculiar. How could I feel such detail? Well, by going smaller, and by finding that place for the feet on the floor where they're really minimally effortful, and just a tiny little push on the right foot to rock the pelvis left, and come back. And then a little more, so maybe 2 vertebrae get pulled into the twist, and then come back. And the next time, maybe 3 vertebrae get pulled into the twist. So your pelvis is drawing a line on the clock face out towards 3 o'clock and coming back. And does it move smoothly, or are there little kind of hitches in the movement, like a little bit of interruption? Now, if you wanted, you could go quicker, and that would seem to smooth out the interruptions, but actually you didn't achieve anything. You just muddied the waters. What if you went slower and smaller and less effort and tried to reduce the hitches in the movement by investing less effort in the movement? It's a very simple movement. And yet, it's just rocking the pelvis to the left. What could be simpler than that? And yet, when you start to feel, oh yeah, I remember before any movement happens, a whole bunch of muscles engage sequentially, even before the movement starts. And then finally the movement happens. There's this preparation. And when you slow it down and you make it smaller and you make it less effortful, the brain reprograms how to prepare the movement and set it in motion, and it starts to get smoother in a really well-educated way. Now try rocking to 9 o'clock. That means you push on the left foot to rock the pelvis right. Now, which side is clearer? Does one side feel easier? Is it easier on the right or on the left to rock the pelvis a little bit out to the side and draw a straight line and come back along the same line? Not a different line. Don't smudge the line. On which side is it easiest not to smudge the line? And again, stop. Take stock. Make sure you're really in neutral. Make sure you starting from the place of minimal effort. And then a little push, like pushing a child on a swing to rock the pelvis a little bit out to one side and come back. You see, we were doing this in the chair last night. It was the third cardinal direction of movement. It was rotation. But here on the floor, we're lying down, we're let go. The torso is much more relaxed. We can feel with much more detail which parts of the spine get engaged in this movement and in what sequence. So now you try one time to the left, one time to the right, and you draw a line across, a horizontal line on the yoga mat, across the clock face, out towards 3 o'clock, out towards 9 o'clock. Very few of us will draw an absolutely straight line. But each one of us will have a different kind of curviness, because each one of us has a different lifetime history of how we walk, how we sit, how we move. Now come back to the middle and try the first movement again. Rocking to 6 o'clock, rocking to 12 o'clock. Do you feel that having done the sideways one, the flexion extension one, the first cardinal direction of movement, in fact, has changed in its quality? Do you feel that when you rock the pelvis 6 o'clock towards the feet, or 12 o'clock towards the head, and the 6 o'clock and the lower back is a little further away from the floor, and 12 o'clock it gets closer to the floor, can you feel more exactly which vertebra, which parts of the back touch the floor or come away from the floor? And can you feel the sequencing of it? And can you feel that it actually goes all the way through to the head, so that if you rock your pelvis a little bit, 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, the head also rocks 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Great. Now, these little inconsequential movements would seem to have little effect, but let your legs lie long, take a break, and notice, with your legs lying long, back in the resting position, what has changed in the sensation of the legs, the contact of the heels with the floor. weight of the legs, the length of the legs, the contact of the pelvis with the floor, and the space between the lower back and the floor. And where the spine gets back in contact with the floor now. And how much you can tell the difference between a spine and a rib, a vertebra and a rib. Would you please turn your right foot a little bit to the outside, so make your toes point more towards the side wall, and come back. Can you do that simple movement smoothly? Don't rush, but just totally smooth as a Mercedes-Benz windshield wiper. And then a little farther to the outside until the toes are almost on the floor, maybe even the outside of the foot touching the floor, but gradually. And then some of you will feel that when the foot can't really turn out any farther, there's a way of continuing the movement, but something else has to happen somewhere in the leg. Some of you are getting it, but I won't say because some of you didn't get it yet. So the legs are lying long in this one. Yeah, and if the right foot turns to the right, eventually the knee does something. And when that knee figures out what it could do to continue the movement, you just let it continue even farther. And eventually the knee bends so much that the foot starts to drag along the floor towards your body. And then go back to the starting position. So feel how many intermediate points. Feel where is there some kind of block to movement? Where does some damn tension gets in there and my leg just can't roll smoothly? Where is there a hitch in the movement? And if you find there's an interruption in the movement, then try to just roll the leg through a much smaller range, just between two hitch points. Find some small part of the movement that you can do like really smooth. That's it. So you smooth it out not by rushing, not by using more effort, but by going smaller and slower. And actually, it might get more jerky before it gets more smooth, because the slower and smaller you go, you may discover all sorts of other little interruptions which escaped your notice when you did the movement bigger. These are called parasitic contractions. These are contractions which have no use, they're a parasite. And this work is designed to give the brain a chance to dissolve a parasitic contraction, to just let that parasitic contraction go. But we do it functionally. We do it by slowing down the movement and taking a break between one movement and the next, and pausing and breathing in and breathing out and really checking, did I go back to neutral? Because if you really get back to neutral, and then you notice how you start the movement the next time, you remember which muscles begin to engage even before the movement starts. The more you can start to sense these details, you're offering your own brain a chance to reprogram and to do the movement in a way where it's not so jumpy. So now, roll the right foot to the right, bend the knee, drag the foot towards yourself on the floor. Don't tense the foot, ow, 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 ow. Leave the foot loose when you bend the knee. You see, that's another parasitic contraction. The knee bends, you start dragging the foot, and all of a sudden the foot is tense. No, leave it loose. And now you feel the bony contact with the foot so much better in the floor. And finally, when the knee can't go any farther to the side and towards your head, then you stand the foot. And when you go back the same way. So let the knee go to the side, towards the floor. And when the knee is very close to the floor, then you slide the foot away from yourself and straighten your leg. And you see you're letting gravity stand the foot on the floor, and the leverage of your skeleton standing the foot on the floor, instead of your muscular effort. The more you turn the foot to the side, the more you bend the knee and drag your limp foot towards yourself, until the knee is so bent that, oh, now it's ridiculously easy to just bring the knee up towards the ceiling and stand the foot. It's so different from the first way we did it. Very good. Very good. Can you see what's going on? Yeah. Yeah, some of the people are doing it really beautifully. Some are still going too fast. There's a speed freak in every crowd. Let the leg come back down, and just notice from this simple little weird way of, you see, before everybody, I said, stand your feet on the floor, bend the knees. Everybody went straight up, but this weird, from doing it this weird way, by letting the knee go to the side and stay close to the floor for a long time, how different the leg feels, just from doing that a few times. Take a rest, let your legs lie long again. Yeah, and you see how much your right hip joint let go, how differently the leg lies on the floor from the left leg. Just from these few movements where you treat your skeleton in a more functional way. That's right. So take a moment, take a rest, sense all the differences between your left and right legs. Sense whether this little excursion, exploring how the right leg could come to stand in a different way, has it affected the lower back? Has it affected the ribs? Has it affected other parts of the body? Now let's try the same thing on the other side. So turn the left foot a little bit more to the outside. Go slower this time. No, I'm going to go faster. I know how to do it. No, go slower. Because you know how to do it, in the sense of you know how to learn a lot about this by doing it slower and more gently and smaller and changing directions more often and stopping in the middle and then starting up again, so that you discover yet another version of neutral, yet another version of being at rest, of the muscles really disengaging. If you turn the foot to the outside and begin to bend the knee and then stop halfway and just stay there, then, oh my God, the left leg is now turned out, the knee is bent. But my God, you could it's so open to the side that the left hip joint can just go, oh my God, there's space in here. My goodness. So you turn the foot to the outside, bend the knee, drag the foot towards yourself. And just when the knee feels, oh, now I could stand up, just stay there for a second. Stay open. Oh, and then stand up. Yeah, and you see it can be flatter than you thought. That's right. That's right. And when you go back, don't slide the foot down. You let the knee go to the side before you, and let the knee approach the floor. Let the knee approach the floor. And when the knee is very close to the floor, and the hip joint is ridiculously open, like, who knew my hip joints could get that open? Then you slide the foot to the floor. And it's so delicious. That's right. Now, who is not going to walk differently when your hip joints have this experience of being so open. That's wonderful. So now you try this strange way of standing the foot on the floor with the knees bent. But you do one leg and then go back down, and then try the other leg and go back down at your own speed. And you feel that there's no strain on the lower back when you turn the foot to the outside and bend the knee and drag the foot towards yourself, and then finally at the last moment stand the leg up so that the knee points to the ceiling. And there's no strain on the lower back when you let the knee go to the side again and approach the floor, not falling, but relaxing, letting go, letting gravity take it, and then finally sliding the foot down so that the leg lies long. No strain on the lower back. No strain on the lower back. So different. So try one leg and then try the other leg. And some of you are sliding the foot, but the right foot is a little too close to the left leg, so it's kind of hard to stand it up. So there is a way of sliding the foot, bending the knee so that the foot slides toward yourself without the foot being too close to the other leg. There is a way of doing that, so then it's easier to stand the foot up. Stand the leg up on the foot. There you go. And it's so great because all of you, nobody's investing extra effort in the foot now. The feet are all staying really let go. And the foot actually discovers its skeletal structure when you stand it like this. So come back now, let your legs lie long. Let your legs lie long. Again, notice the change in the contact with the floor. And the change in the distance of your back, the space between your back and the lower back and the floor. Any other changes in the sense of yourself. And now, remember when the first time I told you to bend your knees and stand the feet to the floor? You do it like that again. Draw the knees straight up and feel how much tension you create in your lower back. You feel that? It's like, ow. How could I do that to myself? Well, I got news for you, baby. You've been doing that to yourself your whole life. But there's another way. So if you continue to do Feldenkrais, whenever the instructor tells you, please bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor, you turn your foot to the side and you bend the knee and you drag the foot along the floor towards yourself. And you can do both at the same time, or you could do one and then the other. As you wish. Doing both at the same time is kind of delicious because you feel like a frog. We're going to be ready for Iya's animal imitation. Ribbit, ribbit. Good. Yeah. So now, please bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor in this new way. And notice, if you do 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, having learned a new way of bending your knees and standing your feet on the floor, has that affected the quality, the clarity, the smoothness, the ease, the range of motion that you now have in 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock? So you leave the feet standing on the floor, you leave the knees bent, and rock the pelvis. pull on your feet to rock the pelvis towards 6 o'clock. Push on your feet to rock the pelvis towards 12 o'clock. And is that line straighter? Is the degree of contact between each vertebra on the floor clearer? If you rocked the pelvis like that without pushing and pulling on the feet, does that make it clearer or less clear? Like just use the hip muscles and the back muscles, don't use the foot muscles, the lower leg muscles. Which way works better for you? Which way helps you feel the connection through to the head better? That's it. Now, rock the pelvis to 6 3 rock the pelvis to 7 o'clock. So it's towards the feet, but a little bit to the right. And back. So it's another line. Yeah. And do 7 o'clock again. Let's say you had to do 7 o'clock 4 times. Would it be the same line 4 times, or kind of like, well, maybe one was 7:30, maybe one was 7:20. Eh? How exact? Is it possible to be exact by letting go of effort, rather than by being exact through increased effort? For us, mere mortal humans, concentration often means increase of effort. Can you rock the pelvis to 8 o'clock now? And use less effort as a form of precision rather than more effort. That's right. And you notice now the lower back, it's a combination. It's a little bit of the lower back's getting a little bit away from the floor, but it's also a little bit of the vertebrae are turning. They're being pulled into a gentle twist. Can you feel how it's a different combination when you go rock to 7 o'clock or when you rock to 8 o'clock? And you see, just the mental effort to feel what's going on down there, and everything is releasing. All the musculature is changing, because your brain wants to help you perceive what you're trying to perceive. So now you do 6 o'clock and come back, and then 7 o'clock and come back, and then 8 o'clock and come back, and then 9 o'clock and come back, and 8 o'clock and come back. It's 7:30 and come back. And you notice, so we've done 1/4 of the circle in pretty great detail. How different does that 1/4 of the circle feel from the rest of it? So now, go to 9 o'clock and come back. And now go to 10 o'clock and come back. And now go to 11 o'clock. Ooh, the lower back's getting closer to the floor and it's twisting a little bit. And now 10 o'clock and come back. And 9 o'clock and come back. 8 o'clock and come back. You see what we're doing? We're only doing the right side. And we're doing the right side only on purpose. Because now, if you let your knees go to the side and let your legs lie long, let the feet slide, then you're going to feel a difference between the right and the left sides when you lie and take a rest. But if you couldn't resist and you did the left side as well, if you did 3 o'clock and 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, then you're not going to notice such a big difference. If you really only did the right side, then you'll feel, oh my goodness, it's yet another version of good news and bad news. One side is in much nicer contact with the floor than the other. So, bend the knees and let's do the left side. So, rock the pelvis to 3 o'clock and come back. Is this side clearer or less clear? And rock the pelvis to 4 o'clock. Which is clearer in your representation, 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock? Which side is easier to draw a straight line? How about 5 o'clock? That's it. The slower you go, the more exact you are. And believe me, we're going to need to be exact in a while. You'll see why. So now go rock the pelvis to 5 o'clock and then come back. And then 4 o'clock and then come back. And 3 o'clock. Always monitoring how much is the spine twisting the lower back and how much is the lower back approaching the floor or coming away from the floor. And then 2 o'clock, come back. And then 1 o'clock and come back. So now we've done each hour on the clock. So you know that the scale has 12 notes. Okay, so this is 12 o'clock. Right? So rock the pelvis to 12 o'clock. The spine gets closer to the floor. And come back to the middle, and then the lower back comes back to the neutral. Now if you rocked to 1 o'clock, that would be C sharp. So rock to 1 o'clock and come back to the middle. And 1 o'clock and back to the middle. 2 o'clock and back to the middle. 3 o'clock and back to the middle. Are you ready? 4 o'clock. And it better be 4 o'clock, really. Not 10 past 4, not 5 to 4, because if it's 4 o'clock, then you're in tune. But if you play at 10 past 4, then you'd be out of tune. Nobody wants to be out of tune. 5 o'clock is F. And 6 o'clock is F sharp. And now, if you did 6 o'clock once, and then 12 o'clock once, and then 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, now you know why the tritone is called the devil's interval. It becomes perfectly obvious when you do the musical pelvic clock. Let's do 7 o'clock. You see where we're going with this. And 8 o'clock, and come back to the middle. And 9 o'clock. Okay, where were we? 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock, back to the middle. 3 o'clock, back to the middle. 6 o'clock, back to the middle. 9 o'clock, back to the middle. 10 o'clock, back to the middle. 11 o'clock, back to the middle. And 12 o'clock. Okay, are we ready? I don't know Dutch children's songs, so we'll do 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 7, 5, 5, back to the middle, 4, back to the middle, 4, 2, back to the middle, 2, back to the middle, 12, 7, 7, 5, 5, 4, 4, 2, you see? You're the world's first Feldenkrais orchestra. 7, 7, 5. Of course, we don't know 5, 4. We don't know if we're going to do a Feldenkrais recital with you guys playing for Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. 12, 12, 7. Because we don't know how much of an audience would like to watch this going on. We could do audience participation. 5, 5, 4, 4, 2, 2, 12. Let's go a little faster. 12, 2, 4, 12, 12, 2, 4, 12, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5. Are you ready? 7, 7, 9, 7, 5, 4, 12, 7, 9, 7, 5, 4, 12, 12, 7, 12, 12, 7, 12. Let your legs lie long, take a rest. Let your legs lie wrong. No, let your legs lie right. No, let your legs lie left. No, let your legs lie long. Take a rest. Now it's interesting, because what I found is that this is a classic Feldenkrais lesson. It's one of the essentials. It's called the pelvic clock. And now take a moment to see the big changes in the lower back and in the rest of the spine and in the ribs that on the left side, the ribs on the right side. Even the shoulder blades have changed their contact, have they not? And the actual imprint your pelvis leaves on the floor. And the legs, are they more let go? Are they heavier? Are they floating, lighter? Everything's changed. And I've found that when we do this lesson without the musical pelvic clock, it's a wonderful experience, and there's something different about this, the way you're lying on the floor now, that having done the musical pelvic clock, it brings in another element. And there's a different kind of skeletal relationship to the floor. Yeah. Just take a rest. I want to do a little bit more, which is going to be a little bit of a preparation for tomorrow's lesson. Will you all be here tomorrow? Hands up, who will be here tomorrow? Oh, hands up, who will not be here tomorrow? Oh dear. Okay, well, you're going to get a taste of what we're doing tomorrow. Would you please bend the knees, stand the feet on the floor, now do a funny thing. Put your right hand on your left elbow and the left hand on the right elbow. Yeah. So it makes a kind of a frame, right? A rectangular frame. It's not quite square. Okay. Now, and you feel that changes the contact of the shoulder blades on the floor, does it not? And now, that frame is basically some people have the frame already, like the elbows pointing towards the ceiling. Other people have the frame lying on their chest. So now, if you move the frame from lying on your chest to the elbows lying towards the ceiling, pointing towards the ceiling. Yeah, but don't do it all at once like that. The whole point is to feel that the shoulder blades change their contact point with the floor. So if you do it very slowly, you can feel millimeter by millimeter how the edges of the shoulder blade change their point of contact. And so as the elbows approach the chest, then the lower part of the shoulder blades more in contact with the floor, and as the elbows sort of levitate towards the ceiling, the shoulder blades stay on the floor, but it's a part of the edge of the shoulder blade closer to the head. And now let the elbows go even a little bit in the direction of the head, so as if the elbows wanted to lie on the floor above your head. And then, but don't do it all the way, just start to go that way, and then you get even more, another part of the shoulder blades in contact with the floor. So move the elbows towards the feet or towards the head and just explore how complete an image of your shoulder blades can you discover. Yeah? And the shoulder blades always rest on the floor. If the more you feel that this arm frame is heavy, then the more you feel, my God, it's a specific point on the inner edge of the shoulder blade. Yeah. And now point the shoulder blade, point the elbows towards the ceiling and stay there. Yeah. And feel the contact with the shoulder blade on the floor. Now, move the rectangle in such a way that the right shoulder blade comes away from the floor. So the right elbow goes a little bit towards the ceiling. And get the shoulder blade off the floor. And come back. That's it. So a few times. So the rectangle kind of moves to the left or something. Try to keep it as a rectangle. Don't turn it into a parallelogram or a trapezoid. Keep it as a rectangle, but get that right shoulder blade off the floor and come back. And you notice every time the right shoulder blade comes back to the floor, it's not quite the same point. Almost, but not completely. That's it, very gently. You don't have to go far. And now do the same thing with the left shoulder blade. So the left elbow goes up a little bit and the left shoulder blade just gets a little off the floor and come back. That's it. Very tiny. And then again, and ooh, did the left shoulder blade come back exactly at the same point of contact, or was it a little different? And you fool around with it. And you try to make it exactly the same point a few times. And then you try to make it a different point a few times. That's it. And how consistent can you keep the shape of this arm frame? And now I notice somebody just switched the hands. So you're already doing, are you telepathic? Did you know what I was going to do? So you'll notice, everybody, you'll notice one arm is on top and the other arm is underneath, right? So now switch them. That's it. And now notice, are you the same person? Do you have the same name? When you move the right elbow away from the floor and the right shoulder blade, is it a completely different experience? So, okay, and when you move the left shoulder blade away from the floor, is it a completely different experience? Are all the angles so weirdly different that you don't even know yourself? This is so cool because it's an illustration of the degree to which we are habituated to our usual self. We are used to, we are familiar with ourself doing the habitual. So now put the arms back, because the first way you did your arms, that's the habitual way. That's the way you do it without thinking. So now this is the usual you. And of course, the usual you doing a pretty unusual thing, which is this tiny movement of the shoulder blade away from the floor. And you see how familiar that is, relatively speaking. Yeah. And now switch the arms again. Yeah. And see, oh my God, it's like completely weird. That's right. And now would you please add a rocking of the pelvis. So when you raise the right elbow and get the right shoulder blade off the floor, you rock the pelvis to 3 o'clock. And when you raise the left side, you rock to 9 o'clock. That's right. And does that make it easier or more complicated? We better take a break. Let your legs lie long, let your arms lie by your side. These rests are really necessary for the brain, because I'm asking you to do relatively simple movements, but the brain is working overtime because each new movement presents a totally new version of all your muscles, how they engage, how they relate to one another, and how they relate to the skeleton. So it's no wonder you are feeling tired right now. I think it's enough already. Yeah, so notice the difference in your contact with the floor. Are your shoulder blades wider now or closer together? Clearer? Sometimes the skeleton doesn't get clearer. Sometimes all the muscles let go and it's as if the bones dissolves too. It's really weird. How is it for you now? How much of the spine is in contact with the floor? How much of the legs, how much of the arms? Does the back of your head, did it change the actual point of contact with the floor? Sometimes the neck releases, but not to get longer, maybe to get more of a curve. Because the curve in the neck is natural. It shouldn't be too straight and long. It should be naturally curved. That makes it springy. It makes the head sit easy on the shoulders. Would you please bend your knees in this funny new way? Just first one and then the other. That's it. No, not straight up. To the side. The funny new way is turning the foot to the side and bending the knee by dragging the foot close to the body, and then stand the legs up. That's right. Make the arm frame, please. And now instead of, leave both shoulder blades, with both knees fully standing. Bend the knee and stand the foot. Bend the other knee to the side. Drag the foot, stand the foot. And now, with both knees bent, both feet standing, don't lift the shoulder blades off the floor. Just move the elbows left and right. Yeah, that's it. Leave both shoulder blades on the floor and move the elbows to the left a little bit, move the elbows to the right. And you feel that also changes the contact point of the shoulder blades, yeah? If the elbows described little horizontal circles, you could get all sorts of different points. And the shoulder blade, it's like more and more of the shoulder blade comes into your awareness. You really feel it's a three-dimensional shape because more and more parts of it got in contact with the floor. And when that part of the bone gets in contact with the floor, it's the same as like when I was touching Ia's back yesterday while she was singing, and just my thumbs on certain vertebrae and my fingers on some ribs, and all of a sudden that part is in your awareness. So how much of your own shoulder blades can you bring into your awareness by bringing different parts of the shoulder blade in contact with the floor by moving the arm frame around, but not lifting the shoulder blade anymore, just keeping both shoulder blades in contact, and then start moving the knees in the same way as the elbows. So the elbows and knees are going left together, and they're going right together. That's it. That's it. Can you do this one smoothly? Can you use skeletal leverage to make the movements as smooth as an in-breath, as smooth as an out-breath? Now, what if the knees were going left while the elbows went right? Does that make it smoother? Come back to the middle, and then let the knees go one way while the elbows go the other way. Not too far. Get the coordination of it, get the hang of it, get the smoothness of it. And the knees go one way and the elbows go the other way at the same speed. Some of you, the knees are moving a lot and the elbows hardly at all. Others of you, the elbows are moving a lot and the knees are almost still. But what if they really, again, are you going to control this by getting more tense? Or can you control this by reducing muscular effort everywhere and just feeling? It's as if you're not even moving. It's as if it is moving. And what's that it? It's your skeleton. Yeah. So fool around with that. The sense of the bones, like doing all the work, which is of course impossible, but you can, when you create the illusion, let's see how close I could get to the bones doing it all, then this perception of the leverage of the skeleton comes into your awareness, and you start to feel this delicious choreography of the parts. The elbows moving one way, the knees moving the other, at the same speed. And they get to the extent of their range at the same time. And they stop, and they head back towards the middle. They begin to head back towards the middle at the same time. And they pass through the midpoint at the same time. And they head in the other direction at the same time. And they reach the range of their movement. Not too much. Just a nice, easy mid-range, and they stop and they begin to come back at the same time. So it's beautifully choreographed. And you'll see, the more you reduce the effort, the easier it is to choreograph. And now, which way was your head going? Did the head stay in the middle? Did the head follow your arms? Did the head follow your legs? There's three options, and you may have noticed that without even thinking about it, your body, means your it, made a choice. It chose one of those three spontaneously. So now, move your head with your arms. Oh, wait a minute, no, take a break. Let your legs lie long, let your arms lie long, let everything go. And notice again, I'm combining different lessons here. We've already done parts of four different lessons. Because this is a sort of Feldenkrais smorgasbord, because we're only here for a couple of days. We want to really get a taste of different aspects of this strange practice. It's a cult. I mean, if people could see you now, what would they, anyway. What's your contact with the floor like now? You see? Someone is here just watching. You should see the expression on her face. No, she was doing the lesson this morning. So, no, the last night you were doing the lesson. And she did it great. She played flute amazing after doing the lesson. Yeah, that sound is still with me. That alto flute, that was amazing. Please bend the knees, stand your feet on the floor, make the arm frame with the non-habitual crossing of the arms. And let your head move in the same direction as your knees. So now the head is moving opposite to the arm frame. The head and knees move one way while the arm frame goes the other way. You see, it's kind of difficult to figure it out. Some of you get stuck. It's like, what? So go slow it down. Don't do a big movement, but try to keep the speed of the elbows and the speed of the head and the speed of the knees the same. That's right. Gently, gently. Some people are forgetting the head, like the head's going way less than the knees. That's a completely different thing when, oh my God, when the head goes as much as the knees, the whole spine just lets go. And now your arm frame stopped. You see? It's like either something's got to stop. Either the head stops, or the arm frame stops, or the knees stops. So slow it down and reduce it until you can actually perceive, my God, none of my parts stopped. My head and my knees really went together, and the elbows really went in the opposite direction. It's so great. Just like everybody's getting it at their own speed and in their own way and with their own sidetracks. Because each of us is different. No, that's the head with the arms. No, that's the head and the knees and the elbows all together. Okay, listen, if you can't do the elbows, then do something different. Just don't move all three things in the same direction. It's weird with the arms folded in a non-habitual way, is it not? Don't go so fast. And when you're ready, keep doing this. The arms and the head going one way. The legs and the head going one way. The arms going different. But look at the top of the church the whole time. Look at the ceiling the whole time. Which means the eyes will individuate from the head. That's it. Yeah, you see, most people, when the eyes look at the ceiling, the head will stop rolling. Of course, that's normal, but don't get down on yourself, it's difficult. But you see if you can leave the eyes kind of glued to a point on the ceiling and let the head really go with the knees. That's right. And you see, this is a little bit of the lesson from last night, the listening lesson, where we use the eye differentiations to release all through the neck and open the ears to actually hear better. Would you please take a break, let your legs lie long, let your arms lie by your side. We could do more, but I think it's enough. You'll have this recording, you can always press pause, and you can make your own variations where the head and the arms go together while the eyes and the knees go together, for instance. Yeah, there's lots of them. There's several, permutations and combinations that we didn't do. But for now, feel the cumulative changes from the beginning of this lesson till now. Can you remember how many of these changes came from doing the pelvic clock? How many of them came from doing the musical pelvic clock? How many of them came from this new way of bending the knees and bringing the feet to stand? How many of them came from making an arm frame and getting one shoulder blade or the other off the floor? And how many of these changes came from moving the knees one way while the arm frame moves the other way, but both shoulder blades on the floor? And imagine, don't stand up yet, just lie there. But imagine that you're standing up. How would you stand differently, given this inner state, which is somewhat unusual, given your daily life? How would you stand? How would you walk? How would you play your instrument? in your imagination do you actually play differently, simply because your inner state is somewhat transformed. All the complex levels of muscular tonus has changed so much from your habitual. The image of the skeleton is so much clearer than it usually is as you go through your day. Could the memory of this, could a trace of this inform how you stand, how you walk, how you play your instrument, how you give the greengrocer your money? Actually, nobody does that. How you whip your credit card out to pay for your money, pay for your groceries. How you walk the dog. And when you're ready, roll by way of the side and come to stand. And see how it all works out in reality. Move gently. Gently. Move consciously, I mean. Move with an awareness of how my skeleton wants to do it. How do you come from lying to sitting to standing with the bones taking over the work of the muscles? This is the first chance to put that somewhat esoteric idea into practice. And when you stand up, what's the change in the contact of the feet with the floor? How does your pair of feet carry the weight? Ooh. Some people are so much more in the heels that they're almost toppling backwards. That's when the skeleton gets rid of all the extra effort. The extra effort in your calf muscles when you're too much on the balls of your feet, too much on the toes of your feet. The human body, the skeleton, is designed to take 80% of the weight on the heels and 20% on the balls of the feet. And so, if you're used to many women in high heels, they've got more weight on the balls of the feet and not so much weight on the heels. So if you feel, oh my God, I'm back on the heels, you're probably closer to 80-20 now than normally. Some people are too much on the heels and they may feel, oh my God, I'm more on the balls of my feet. I feel the toes and they're making me more springy. And so that also is closer to 80-20. The nervous system has calmed down at this point in time to allow you to sense 80-20. And 80-20 is completely logical because the ankle, it's 20% away from the back of the foot and it's 80% away from the front of the foot. So the weight actually comes down through the ankle. So that's why it's 80% on the heel, 20% on the balls and the toes. Try walking, and if you can feel, how do I experience 80-20 in walking? Yeah. Welcome to your skeleton. Yeah. Careful. I was telling someone that when in the middle of my training, I was on a sidewalk in Georgetown, Washington, D.C. I decided I'm not going to take a step until I can really figure out and feel how my skeleton wants to do this. I was there for about half an hour, like before I took a step. But it was Georgetown, so there was a bunch of other weirdos on the street too. It didn't matter. I didn't stick out at all. But gosh, it was such an interesting experience. Yeah. How does your skeleton want to take that step? Yeah. So this moment when you get up after a lesson, this is always included in the lesson. It's one of the key parts of the lesson when the brain starts to integrate all this new information. It's been processing new impressions, letting go of this muscle, activating that muscle, but hundreds of them. And now it all comes together, and the long process of integration, of actually doing stuff different, now becomes a possibility. Nice, eh?
Yeah, very nice.
And of course, tango is one of the best ways of continuing this process. Yeah!
And I also feel like on me process is really the first big difference. 80% wearing heels.
Yeah.
But she wears high heels. It's understandable.
That's right. Yeah, if you're up on high heels a lot, then when you come down and walk with flat, then you'll feel 80-20, and it's like, bam, holy Diana, this is really something. I can't wear any heel. I can't even wear an Oxford shoe with 5 millimeters. I wear barefoot shoes all the time now. I can't walk in that. Like, it just throws me completely off. Yeah. Yeah.
My only shoe that's not a barefoot shoe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't walk around it.
That's right. Yeah. Any questions? Any other comments? Any impressions? Any observations? Experiences? Complaints? Yes? Oh, I'm so sorry I put you to sleep. Feldenkrais said that you would still get the benefit of the lesson. He said that the words are going in and your mind is doing it even though you're asleep. That's what he said. So maybe you'll feel later that that's true or not true. Cool. Yeah, quantum fields, there you go.